All right, so absolute pleasure to have Zach Alvarado over here on this podcast that we got going on right now. College graduate, college wrestling coach, or high school wrestling coach, my fault.
Both.
Active wrestler, area manager with Amazon, and then my favorite part to announce is world traveler, someone that's traveled all around the world, which I think is super interesting, and travel is something that's definitely super very important. So, Zach, welcome. It's good to have you on over here on this podcast.
It's good to be here, Bobby.
Now, starting off with you, man, just graduating school, right? South Carolina?
Yep.
Just getting out of school out of South Carolina. I'm sure that was a big move. I'm sure that was a big accomplishment for you. What was the mindset coming out of school? What was the game plan? What was the thought process coming out of school for you?
Oh, man. Figure it out fast.
Right.
I had a little bit of time to enjoy after graduation and work, so I traveled a bit, tried to hit as many spots as I could and see some friends. I remember going to LA for a little bit, seeing my buddy out there. I remember going to Firefly Music Festival. I remember going to see my sister and doing a Tough Mudder in Boston, and then thinking like, okay, now it's time to settle down and figure stuff out. Get the place ready, move into work, start figuring out work stuff. But initially out of college, just enjoy it because I don't know how long I'm gonna have that freedom.
Right. Talking about freedom, talking about life in general. You mentioned music. And going into music, you're somebody that, look, man, I see you just start dancing sometimes out of nowhere. You start singing randomly out of nowhere, and that's good, man. What impact has music had on your life? What kind of music do you like, and what does music represent in the life of Zach Alvarado?
Oh, wow. Music is huge to me. It's a natural thing for me. It's not like I had lessons and such growing up, but I never really... I didn't love practicing too much, but I always enjoyed music. So when it became practicing and such, when I was learning how to play saxophone at a young age or piano at a young age, I didn't like practicing. I don't think I succeeded well in that aspect. But now coming back to it, like my brother's in a band now, and he's really inspirational in that aspect. And we've always just sang a whistle growing up. I started getting back into it. I'm a huge music geek when it comes to actual knowledge of it and bands and history of bands, and I'm really into like reading about those autobiographies. Like Anthony Tighe just had one for Red Hot Chili Peppers, and the struggles that they have. There's a lot that we can learn from it. But now going forward, my brother actually got me MKAI Pro for Christmas, so I'm gonna try to mix and start getting back into it.
Do you see music in your future? You see it as something you want to pursue just personally to enjoy, or do you think you might make a little professional run at something in the music industry?
I'd say semi-pro. I'd say semi-professional run. I think that Matt and I have kind of talked about it. Maybe doing like a side project for fun once I get kind of adept at mixing software and producing. Because he's also got all these tools at his disposal. He can play a bunch of instruments and sing. So I think that'd be awesome. I think that'd be a great way to just enjoy life besides whatever I'm working on. And if it works out well, and I start, we got something good going, I might make it professional.
Right. Now, you as a wrestler, right? Yeah. Transitioning the conversation to what you did as a wrestler, a lot of training goes into that. A lot of competition, a lot of competing goes into that. What were some of your biggest accomplishments while you were a wrestler?
I'd say one of my biggest accomplishments was a pretty good story. It's with Junior Olympics my junior year. Just tested me physically and mentally. Got to the camp. First day I injured myself. I thought I pulled my hip flexor or strained something. And then I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep wrestling the rest of the camp and go to compete in Junior Olympics, but I ended up actually going. I wrestled 9 matches. I won 6 of those. Ended up placing bronze at that tournament. Mm-hmm. And 3 days later, I got back after 2 weeks of wrestling on this hip, and the doctor told me I had a broken hip. I had an avulsion fracture on my rectus femoral on my left side, and that was one of the toughest tournaments I've ever done. And I definitely could have stopped and should have stopped, but I'm still proud of it.
Right. And what was the recovery time on an injury like that?
It was like 8 to 10 weeks.
8 to 10 weeks, okay.
Yeah.
Nothing too serious,
Crutches,
but 2 months where you're knocked out on crutches.
Avulsion fracture is not very serious. It's kind of like a splinter of wood pulling off the rest of the bone. So, like, imagine like a splay piece of bone just poking your tendons all the time.
Uh-huh.
So it's going to be painful, but it's not life-threatening. It's not like a clean break.
Right.
It's just a little Little fracture.
But going 6-3 in that tournament right there,
Yeah.
that felt good. That really motivated
That
you.
felt good. It was they gave the placements based on like how many wins you had. Like if you had 9 matches or something, and you won 6 of them, you got bronze. But it's really a duels tournament. I originally had the top spot. I got injured. I sank to the 3rd spot, and we actually had a duel in the 1 versus 3, and I was winning 5-0 going into the 2nd period, and I gave it up at the end. I ended up losing like 8-5. But you know, sometimes you wonder like how you could have done if you didn't have those things holding you back.
Right. Now, friends. You probably made a whole lot of friends while you were wrestling.
Yeah.
You still in contact with them? You still talk to them, or?
Yeah, actually, I was just Snapchatting my buddy Kay. Kaylee and I wrestled up in high school. We were actually the only 2 wrestlers my senior year because the program was kind of falling apart. But you know, with the NCAA nationals going on, you know, we were talking about all the crazy matches. Someone that I wrestled with in South Carolina my freshman year, or his freshman year, he went back to Colorado. I actually visited him last month. So I still keep in contact. And I even did this trip for my senior thesis in college where I traveled to California and stayed with people I knew through connections via social media in particular.
Yeah.
And I stayed with 3 or 4 out of the 8 people I stayed with, I knew through wrestling. So Mackay out in Stanford, I actually wrestled with him in high school. Like Brandon out in Colorado, I actually wrestled with him in college. So it's kind of cool to see those long-lasting relationships hold.
Now, as someone that competed at a pretty high level in wrestling, you've gone on right now to currently be a wrestling coach of a high school.
Yeah.
Like, what's that like now? Now you're transitioning from being the wrestler, being the coach, to kind of taking that experience and being a coach, and a young coach, because you're how old?
I'm 23.
23 years old. Now you're coaching wrestlers. You're bringing that 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year experience to the table and teaching. What's that like? How are you feeling doing all of that?
It feels much easier than when I did it in college because my junior year I placed nationally, but my senior year I opted not to wrestle due to a bunch of injuries. And our coach had to step away because he had a kid and was just opening up a gym. And he wasn't able to be there as much. So I took on more of a coaching role there. And as far as that, it comes down to very simple things. Like you got to earn the respect by showing your skill and proficiency in whatever you're doing. You can't be a coach if people don't believe that you're better than them. So
Confidence. You got to have that confidence.
It's a confidence that comes with it because, you know, I've been doing this 13 years, you know. I know that I'm good at what I do, but not necessarily everyone else is going to think that. So a lot of time in the very beginning wasn't spent coaching as much, leading the practices, but I would come in as a participant. Like one of the coaches even thought I looked like one of the high schoolers at first. He kind of passed over me, looking at the rest of the kids like, oh yeah, I got another wrestler in the room. Awesome. But I was actually, he just forgot what I looked like. And but the first few weeks were just spent kind of just wrestling with them, just showing them that I could beat them, and you know, like, hey, this is what I could show you, this is how I could help you. And once they see that there's more there, they want more. They're like, hey, I'm gonna listen to this kid because he's like me. He's pretty close to me in age. You know, I'm not afraid to speak to him on another level that I'm sometimes more scared to talk to older coaches on. Right. And I see that he knows something that I might not know, and I want that. And I want a partner that's gonna push me.
So you show that respect to the people you're coaching, and then you also show that confidence to the people that you're coaching, and that's what they trust. That's what they like about you as a coach. Yeah,
and nothing is better as a coach than when you've come in kicking a kid's butt, and at the end of the year they're taking you down. Right. They're turning you. There's nothing better than that. There's nothing better than seeing a kid just grow up, and you were able to be a part of that.
Right. Now, doing that as a wrestler, becoming a wrestling coach, this is all in the meantime of you kind of being a world traveler. So you've traveled to probably just about every state in the United States. Yeah, like you've been to how many countries?
22 since college started. Before that, I don't really count a lot of them because my parents took me when I was younger. So, but yeah, I was born in Hong Kong and I grew up in China to start my life. So world travel has always been a part.
And like that's what I was trying to allude to. So you start as a wrestler, you become a wrestling coach, you go to college. All in the meantime, you travel to 20 plus countries. To me, I think that's huge because I think traveling is great for the mind. I think it's great for the body. I think it's great to see other places. I got to ask you too, where's your favorite place been? Everyone's got that favorite place where like, hey, I like going to that place. And if I could if I could pick one place to go to right now, it would be that place. I would travel back there on vacation or go live there for 30 days. What would you pick?
Um, I, I mean, there's a lot of places that jump to mind, obviously, but I think that the one place that I really enjoyed that I felt like I only scratched the surface of was probably Turkey.
Okay.
Turkey was
Uh-huh.
really, really cool, man. I went to Istanbul and just had an awesome experience there. And just,
Yeah.
we just randomly found this guy that happened to show us like every spot and take us, on ferries across to the Asian side versus the European side. And,
Right.
These cool lookouts, and we got to look at mosques and
Yeah.
beautiful architecture there. It was just, we were only there 3 days, 4 days.
Right.
There's no way that I saw it all. And the Middle East and that region is just past, it's just past that area. And
Right.
I feel like if I could travel back to Turkey and maybe expand into some of the areas that we consider a little too dangerous to travel to right now, I would love to do that.
Now, on top of always having your most favorite place, the spot that you would like to go to, with somebody that's done as much traveling as you, where would you least like to go back to? Where you're like, all right, look, I'm not going to go back to that place over there.
Parts of Romania were pretty scary. They I remember I was training, taking a train ride, I had a Eurail pass, and they woke me up at 4 a.m. when I was on this train and gave me a chain. They're like, for your safety, and they gave me a chain and a lock to put on the inside of my door. I'm like, I don't feel safe.
Right.
So I'd probably say Romania,
Man.
or Bulgaria. I got because this was right after the Belgian bombings. I was in Bulgaria. I trained in from Greece the night before or the morning of, and I was going out on a train that night. And both times in the morning and night, they actually pulled me aside and made me empty my bags and check all my papers. And, I hadn't seen them do that to anyone else, and I don't know. Just like the first time, I felt kind of targeted. I am a little darker skin color, being a little Latino, so maybe they thought I looked like some Middle Eastern refugee that came over that could possibly cause them harm, or especially at a node of transportation where they were on high alert because the airport had just gotten bombed.
Right.
But I don't know. I didn't get great vibes from Bulgaria.
Man, what's going on in Romania that they're throwing out chains to their tourists and saying, hey, lock your doors over there?
I don't really know. I forget the name of the place. I think Craiova was where I was going to start. I was going to stop, and I got out of the train, and man, it was just gray, and it was just really it was just dirty, and there's some homeless people around. I'm like, I don't really like Craiova, and so I looked at the next train stop, and it was another train leaving that area going to Timisoara at 2 hours later. So I'm like, cool. Let me go ahead and find a charger. We charge up. Let me just relax for a bit, get some food, and we'll get out of here in just a second. And it was just I found some beauty in the place. There was some graffiti on some of the brick walls. That was pretty cool. But besides that, it looked like it was some Cold War throwbacks, block city. I just was really not having a good time in Romania.
Former Soviet curtain over there.
Yeah, basically. But Timisoara was cool. Timisoara, that was one of my favorite memories from that trip, was when I was just walking down a lane, an alley, and there was windows on either side of me that they had practice rooms for music going on. So there was a practice room for a clarinet. I remember the clarinet very vividly, in the music just seemed like it was streaming out the window. The next was a trombone or a trumpet player, and the music was just coming out, and all these different rooms and all these different sounds hitting you at the same time. It was just a beautiful day at the same time.
Stateside, favorite city.
Stateside favorite city.
New York, LA, Vegas, Miami.
I'd say Boston. Boston's a really cool city. Either Boston or Philly. They have that kind of old school American colonial feel with some paved paved roads with not paved. What's the word for bricks laid down? Cobblestone.
Yeah.
The cobblestone feel near Fenway just is unmatchable. You still have horse and cart carrying some people. Yeah. And game day, a baseball game at Fenway.
Right.
The car's sizzling sausage and smells delicious, and it just is a vibe you can't recreate anywhere else, in my opinion.
Stateside, least favorite city. Where you not going in the States? Or you just got no interest in going over there?
Man, anywhere in Kansas, bro. It's so flat. It's so and I think it was in St. Louis that I was stopping through on a Greyhound, and at that Greyhound, 2 separate occasions, 4 different undercover cops tackling people. Just 2 by 2. So like two dudes who just lay out this traveler and like put his hands behind his back and guide him away. I'm like, oh, that was exciting. And then again, like 10 minutes later, someone else gets laid out. I'm like, I don't feel safe anymore.
Man, I've been to St. Louis, man. I hear you. Yup. I've been to St. Louis a few times. Nothing special. You know, I get that there. Now, for you, man, and what I say to a lot of people is, you know, I always look at people and I see what's their perspective. You know, what's their perception of life. You know, let's go back to a couple podcasts. I had Omkar on. Omkar, we talked a lot about happiness, and he really broke down the happiness principles and how he successfully applies them to his day, and it causes him to usually always feel real good, both personally and professionally. And he had a really good perspective on that, and one of the things from knowing him is that that's his actual perspective on life. And what's been one of your reasons that you've done a lot of traveling, you've been a good wrestler? What are some of the more important perspective characteristics that you want to have?
I think that, like, it goes back to confidence is one thing. I think that the confidence to be wrong and to be a student is important. The confidence to know what you know and to be a leader and a professional in that area of expertise is important. I think the confidence it goes any way you want. It's not necessarily that I think I'm the best and I am the best. Therefore, it's not like confidence could be like, you know what, I'm confident. I don't know this answer. And I'm okay asking someone. Like, that is confidence to me. Like, that's a cool trait. That you can humble yourself. And humility is another one. Humility. Being able to just, you know, say, maybe I'm not all that. Maybe there is something more. And maybe you could show me. That's that openness that comes with humility allows you to learn. And if you don't learn, you will never grow. And I think we all have the ability to teach something and learn something every day. I think that's what makes us better as people.
Do you do a lot of personal development?
When you say personal development, can you clarify?
Reading books, finding people you're interested in, great historians, great people from the past, learning from what they've done. Physical exercise, physical training. Obviously, you're doing a whole lot of wrestling, so I don't really look to that as so much as something personal development for you, because that's just something you do naturally. But you know, when it comes to personal development, what kind of stuff do you do to help yourself kind of gain an advantage? Let's send this call to voicemail. Jersey City. We don't want that right now.
As far as personal development, I feel like the things that I need to work on the most are just the way I organize and go about my life in a steady way. Because right now there's a lot of volatility in my life. A lot, new job, just ended season. There's just a lot of family stuff. People moving in, out of places, trying to keep up with everything. I think the trick for me next is to kind of develop a stability, a routine, and some hobbies that keep me, using my mind and keeping me active. So one of the things I'm developing is just like music. And when I think about music, there's a lot of ways to approach it. I'd rather approach it in the way that people talk about it in a creative manner and trying to hone my own skills rather than the history of music. Because that doesn't interest me as much as being able to express myself in a certain way. So my different modes of communication. I also want to get into writing more. LinkedIn is a perfect place, I think, for that. And I want to get into writing articles on things that interest me, because
I like that.
I have a lot of fun facts rolling in my head. I have a lot of I think startup ideas that could work. Even just watching this NCAA tournament, I noticed that 2 wrestlers, someone double-legged him into a table, and I see this all the time, people getting injured in tables. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if someone took kind of a similar material as a mat and put it in front of that table, just created something that was meant to stand up on its own and protect both the equipment being used and the wrestlers competing. And so for me, whenever I have an idea like that, I try to go and see, well, why couldn't I do that? What part of my arsenal doesn't allow me to run a business like that? Is it because I don't know who to talk to? Well, let me go find out who to talk to. And so I'll run myself through these scenarios where I'll say, hey, I have an idea. How would I do that? Minus the money.
So which kind of leads me to a story I want to put on for the listeners. So you and me, we were at the MMA fights of Jacksonville this past weekend, and having a pretty good time down there. One thing I noticed about you in a social setting, you're a really funny dude. And what I mean by that is We're out, we're watching these fights. We got a whole bunch of people around next to us. And man, you were out there making a whole lot of people laugh during these fights. You had some people stand up in front of you. You make some really funny comments towards them to have them sit back down. Some guy was holding on to 5 seats, and you go over there and ask him, hey, can I sit down on one of these seats? He says, no, there are 4 people. He said, all 5 of them are for somebody. And a bunch of people got a laugh from that. You really had a good time while you were out. What's some of the important things that you got to do when you want to enjoy life and look at the glass as half full?
At some point, you just gotta stop holding stuff. You just gotta stop caring. Like, you obviously don't want to make anyone mad.
That, yeah.
But if you care too much about what's going on,
bit,
yeah,
right?
like, man, good copy. It's all right. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes stuff happens, and that's something I've also been working on personally. Just, like, it's okay. Life goes on. Like, what do I do now? I remember one time, I was coming back from Austria, for my study abroad, and I got stuck in Canada because the Canadian leg to Cincinnati had gotten canceled. And my mom was freaking out. She wanted everyone to pay 2 times over. Like, where's my son? Like, get him back home. And I'm just like thinking, like, hey, you know what? Like, I've been traveling a bunch this past 6 months. I have a hotel comped. I have food tickets, and one of my buddies, Nelson, lives in Toronto. Like, let me hit him up. And we ended up going to a Blue Jays game on Canada Day, which is July 1st, which I just happened to be traveling through. So if you shut off your mind to those options just because you're so concerned about that one thing that just happened, then you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities.
See, I know what you mean. And that's a really good point because I've had some experiences where I've been traveling and I've gotten mad. I've been stuck at an airport. I've gotten frustrated and angry. And I've had some other experiences where it was like I was in Cancun and my friend lost one of his travel cards that he needed or something like that. And we got stuck in Cancun for an extra period of time where we shouldn't have been there. And you know what? During that time period, I'm like, whatever. I'm trapped in Cancun right now. Who cares? I'm going to head back to the resort. I'm going to grab a couple more margaritas and I'm going to relax. And like, I think that's hitting the nail on the head. When you want to talk about happiness, when you want to talk about enjoying life, it's not about being nonchalant and not caring, but sometimes you do just gotta relax and say, hey, I gotta laugh right now. I gotta enjoy the time right now. I gotta enjoy what's in front of me right now. See that big picture and keep moving forward, because at the end of the day, if you've got your life organized, if you've got your goals laid out, if you've got your checklist for your personal, your professional life, if you're organized in your daily habits, a couple misses here and there isn't going to affect the structural nature of your life.
No, at the end of the day, like, you'll pay for those misses, but it's just a balance of value. Like, how much does it cost? How much did it pay? Like, if you make a mess up happen and it's something that can be fixed with $10, then you have to decide how much is happiness to you. And like, if $10 is happiness, like, money shouldn't equal happiness. Like, okay, I messed up. I'm going to learn from that. Now it's $50. Like, okay. But then if you make another mistake that you can't fix like that, that's when you should be taking life a little more seriously. Like, if you don't show up for someone when they need you, you can't buy that back.
Yeah.
And if you can, you're with the wrong people. So you should take things seriously, and you should be able to grieve with someone, empathize and sympathize, and those traits are important. But because I tell you right now, if you just like kind of play off somebody else's pain as if it's nothing, like how you usually do when you're trying to, kind of let it go, and like they don't oftentimes see it like that. So you also have to have these other abilities to. Someone's key to happiness might just be having someone talk to them about how unhappy they are. So it's not always the same for like your own pursuit of happiness. Like what makes someone else happy might not be what makes you happy. Right. And that's something that makes me happy, is figuring out how can I help you through this time. Like, I mean, we can both be sad if it'll help you long term. Like, I'll be here and be sad with you for a little bit. Like, I'm cool with that too, because some people need a little more, help with that.
And I think it's important to try and structure your life so that you live your best life possible financially, with relationships, with your health, so that when you do have to be there for people, for your friends, for your family who might be going through a tough experience, you've positioned yourself well enough so that you can reach out and help other people.
You can't take care of other people if you can't take care of yourself.
Right.
So if you can't take care of yourself, don't give too much trying to help others in their current situations when you really do need to be dedicating time to figuring out your own stuff. But yeah.
And that's huge right there, because a lot of times, look, this is a complicated world that a lot of people get caught up in between all the various struggles that people go through during their day-to-day life. When you can get yourself into a position like you're in or I'm in, where we can really structure our future because we're younger, because we've had a good education, because we've seen a lot, you want to do it. You want to seize that opportunity. You don't want to let that opportunity slip. Because if you get careless, if all you do is party and rack up credit card debt and pass on jobs that might really help you network out with people, you could miss some of those key opportunities where you could have got yourself ahead so that later on in life, you could have been that person that could have gone out and helped a lot of other people who may have really needed it. And that's where I think time management is so important. I write about it in my book. I blog a lot about it because I think when you can really get time management and goal management down, you can become a very impactful person. And with that being said, you're a manager in a very large, ever-changing fulfillment center. You help manage upwards of 50 to 100 people every single day. What's that experience been like? Someone that went out and got a really good education, that traveled a lot of the world. What's a day-to-day life of being in such a fast-paced, ever-changing fulfillment center like for somebody like you?
It's been interesting adapting to this position I've gotten to. It's not like anything else I've done. I've had some jobs before, but as far as being a people manager and having to take care of certain things at certain times, you're running on two different clocks. You're running on your own clock and your own activities that you're trying to get done, and you're running on the clock that this monster of a system sets up for you. So if it tells you that, in an hour I'm going to break down, like, you have to work around its time. Like, there's nothing, and oftentimes it won't tell you, of course. Something might happen, or some change might occur, or some freight might not come in, and you kind of just have to adjust on the fly. So there's two battles you're fighting. One is time management, but one is also the flexibility to change that template you've set for your day. So there's a cadence you want to hit. You gave me that checklist that said, IOL,
right?
FSI, AO. You're hitting certain things that you have to get done. But then at the same time, you're also having to manage all of these other activities within like periods of time. And it takes a great degree of flexibility to be able to say, hey, I have to get this done. I have X amount of time to do it, but why might impact that variability of that time?
As a manager in operations, one of the things that I really take away from it every day is, first off, I ask two questions to myself. Is this challenging me in a professional way? And the answer is yes. The other question I ask is, am I growing from this experience as a person? And the answer is still yes. So for those of you that don't know, Zach and I are both managers at Amazon over here in Jacksonville, Florida. And managing 50 to 100 people can be very complicated during the daytime when you include specific business goals. And working for Amazon, goals always change. The business is always changing. There's always new activities, new procedures that are going on. And having those people management skills and that business-oriented mindset is absolutely huge. And I see a lot of college kids come in, and a lot of college kids don't make it at Amazon. A lot of them quit or get fired or have to, transfer to other locations. It just doesn't work out. But one of the things that I've noticed about you is your energy level has always been really high. And because you've always had that high energy level, you've seen success where a lot of other people haven't seen success. So I think a lot of that's accredited to the style of life that you live. It's that physical fitness, that training and wrestling. It's that making sure that you go out and have that social life. You stay in contact with friends and family. I think that is really the key to balance. the key to really living a good life is having those relationships set, making sure you manage your finances in the right way, and then making sure you take care of your health. I think that right there are some of the key principles to success. And one of the last things I wanted to leave you off with on this podcast, I know we're approaching 30 minutes right now, is, for someone like you that's traveled so much and seen so much, what's your vision like for the future, man? What's Zach Alvarado looking at over the next 1 year? What's Zach Alvarado looking at over the next 5 to 10 years, man? What's the vision of Zach Alvarado right now?
It's kind of funny because some of the decisions that brought me to Jacksonville in the first place were actually made on bets. There are bets that I made, calculated risks I took. One of the places that was on the map for a possible HQ2 for Amazon was actually Miami. And having an international business major, I thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if Amazon went to Miami and tried to do some sort of Latin American expansion? Yeah. Like, wouldn't that be nifty? But then, even if that didn't happen, like I could still end up in Florida, have some things that were going on. So, hope is still alive. New York is no longer where we're going next for our headquarters. So,
disappointingly, I was considering those 25,000 jobs in New York City. I was looking at it as a good possibility, but it is what it is.
But Jeff, if you're listening, man, Miami and Latin America looking real nice. So if you want to go there. But I really do want to get my feet wet in some international play, and I did go to school for finance and marketing and international business, more brand management style, and my internship was in digital marketing. So as I learn with Amazon the base, I do next for me is hopefully promotion. And then I want to try to do a little bit of recruiting, try my hand at that, because that was something I loved to do when I was in college. Recruiting for the wrestling team, recruiting for the Serengeti brand ambassador program that I was a part of. Even in the Philippines, when I was doing my internship, I developed another brand ambassador program there that was focused on recruiting people to do organic growth for this vape that we were trying to sell in the Philippines. So I think that would be a cool approach. But right now, it's like the next year is just patience. That's what I got to teach myself, because something's going to happen that throws everything for a loop. And it's not like it's a semester in school anymore, because some of us are college educated and had semesters and things began and ended in 6 months. But the real world, it just keeps going. So if you make plans for in 6 months that I'm going to be graduated, like that might not happen. You might not get that promotion. So it's something that I have a goal towards. I want to get to the next position. I want to switch roles into recruiting. I want to maybe end up in a corporate life, but eventually I want to travel. I want to go to different places and do international business and see how the world functions, between each other, not just within its own walls.
So I like that. It seems like your vision over the next 5 years, you're seeing a multitude of different jobs that are out there. You've got a couple key places you're considering going to. And I think that's really important. And I think what some people should take away from that is when you're trying to think of your own life and you're trying to think about what it is that you want to do and where you want to go in your life, I think it's really big for you to kind of step back and see, what do I like? What possible jobs are out there for me? How can I understand these jobs? Maybe I want to subscribe to a job list. Maybe I want to be more active on LinkedIn. Maybe I want to hire somebody to run my LinkedIn profile for me. Establishing yourself within those jobs, within that specific field, and then on top of it, knowing some locations I might want to go to, whether it's the New York area, the Miami area, Philippines, Latin America. I think you did a great job right there, really just identifying some key places that you would go to. And a lot of people I notice don't know when I ask them, what is it that you want to do? Where would you like to go? I'm not sure. I really don't know. Or I get, just 3 month to 6 month answers. But when you can identify the next couple years to 5 years to 10 years for yourself and be flexible like you were talking about within and through all that, I think you're really doing a great job of making sure you put yourself in a good direction and you go towards that direction with a really strong attitude. Now, I'm going to conclude this. We're passing that 30-minute mark, but Zach Alvarado, man, absolute pleasure having you on. You're definitely a total monster in your day-to-day life, both personally and professionally, from the traveling to the wrestling to the workplace. Excellent having you on. Very much appreciate that.
I appreciate you asking me to be here, man. It was an awesome time. Maybe we could do it again sometime. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody, appreciate you getting on. Looking forward to this one and the next podcast coming out for you all soon.